In September 1986, in the Pakistani city of Karachi, members of the Abu Nidal organization, which is a Libyan-sponsored Palestinian terrorist group, are watching the local airport and gathering weapons to be ready for their next mission. The idea is to hijack a plane in order to demand the freedom of their brothers jailed in Cyprus. The chosen ones for this mission are Khalil, Zaid, Fahad, and Mansour, who managed to enter the airport by disguising themselves as security officers escorting a Libyan diplomat and presenting fake documents. Meanwhile in Bombay, 22-year-old Nirja is having a great time at a house party with friends and family, including her parents Rama and Harish. After the party, Nirja naps for a few hours, and Rama wakes her up when it's time for her to go to work. Rama also thinks Nirja's modeling career is strong enough for her to drop her second job, but Nirja refuses because she likes being a flight attendant. Before Nirja leaves, Rama promises she'll get that yellow dress she wanted for her birthday, which is in a couple of days. Nirja is picked up by her good friend Jaideep, and as he watches them leave, Harish admits he made a mistake in not marrying Nirja to Jaideep instead of her awful ex-husband. On the way to the airport, Jaideep admits he'll miss Nirja, so she tells him to take a specific street and shows him a billboard with her face. This way, whenever he misses her, he can come by and look at those pictures. At the airport, Jaideep gives Nirja her birthday present and tells her not to open it until the date comes, and Nirja thanks him with a hug. The other flight attendants welcome Nirja and tell her she should marry Jaideep already and that it's time for her to move on from her failed arranged marriage. Nirja's plane tonight is flying to New York via Karachi and Frankfurt, which means the passengers are a mix of Indian and American. The plane takes off safely, and Nirja gets teased by her co-worker when she discovers Jaideep's gifts. Nirja's told that leaving her husband had been the right decision, and she cannot help thinking back to what happened last year. Naresh had angrily scolded her for buying takeout and being a bad housewife that liked to pretend to be a model instead of taking care of her husband. He swore he would ask Harish for all the money Nirja wasted, and told her to stay in the kitchen while he had friends over. When she called her dad later, she tried to avoid visiting him by saying she had to spend more time in her new home to adjust, and Harish got worried. Nirja asked him not to talk to Naresh and swore the decision to quit modeling was made together, although she didn't sound so sure. Harish reminded her to stay strong, not to do or tolerate anything wrong, and always be brave. A bit over an hour later, the plane lands in Karachi. Some passengers get off here, and radio engineer Ali comes aboard to check everything is alright. At that moment, the terrorists barge in, killing every guard in sight. Nirja hears the shooting and urges the other attendants to close the door, but they aren't strong enough and the terrorists burst in to hijack the plane. While they gather all the passengers, Nirja quickly alerts the cockpit, allowing the 3 American pilots to escape through the overhead hatch. Khalil finds Nirja and makes her take him to the cockpit, forcing it open with a kick and seeing the pilots run away through the windows. Furious, Khalil tries to shoot at them through the hatch, but it's too late, they're already far enough to reach the terminal safely. Meanwhile at home, Rama discovers that Nirja has left without the special ring she had gifted her and takes it as a bad omen. Back on the plane, the terrorists discuss what to do now that the plane is grounded. Ali, who couldn't get out before all this happened, notices them planning their next move and takes off his uniform jacket to pretend he's just another passenger. While in the terminal they're already rerouting all their planes to another airport, Khalil insists they should start killing people, but Zaid reminds him to be patient because they may not send them pilots if they act too violently. Then, Zaid makes Nirja make an announcement to the whole plane, asking them to collaborate and stay calm if they don't want to be killed. She also adds a bit of her own, saying they should lower their hands, which Zaid doesn't approve of, but he changes his mind when Nirja explains she's just trying to help because this will make people feel reassured and they'll make things easier. Cameras are put on the roof of the terminal to try to get a picture of the terrorists while guards are sent near the plane to try to negotiate. The terrorists make everyone shut the windows and order Nirja to ask if any of the passengers is a radio operator because they don't want to open the door for the negotiations, they want the safety of the cockpit. Ali considers handing himself in, but Nirja keeps him quiet with just a slight movement of her head. Not finding what he needs, Zaid decides to open the door after all, showing Nirja and an American passenger as hostages and threatening to kill them if the pilots aren't sent to the plane in 30 minutes. In Bombay, Harish learns Nirja's plane has been hijacked while at work and calls his wife to let her know. At the terminal, the guards argue with the company's higher-ups because they won't allow their pilots to return to the plane to prevent any deaths. The 30 minutes pass without any news, so Zaid opens the door again and Khalil shoots the American man, promising to kill more if the pilots don't come. After the door is closed, Nirja rushes to have a breakdown in the bathroom, making sure the lock is on behind her. Khalil comes after her and begins hitting the door as he yells at her, reminding her of Naresh. Her ex-husband used to get angry like this as well, especially when he heard Nirja would call her dad to share her worries. Bitter as he was of her making her own decisions, Naresh made a list of every phone call and food delivery to make her dad pay for everything. Speaking of her dad, Nirja remembers his words, "Stay strong and brave." After washing her face, she comes out with her chin held high and is taken back to the group. Not wanting to let them think they have power over her, Nirja asks her co-workers to help them offer the passengers some water as they would usually do. When Zaid tries to stop her, she reminds her she's just doing her duty like he's doing his, so he allows her to continue. After identifying the terrorists as part of the Abu Nidal organization, the terminal guards contact the military for backup, and they're told to stall for 2 or 3 more hours until reinforcements can get there. Sometime later, the terrorists start discussing who to kill next, since they haven't heard from the guards again. Khalil wants to kill Nirja because she's trouble, but Zaid refuses, pointing out she is an American and she's the only one able to function. Then, they ask Nirja to gather all the passengers' passports. Because she overheard them talking, she knows they'll only kill Americans, so as she hands the other attendants trash bags to do the collecting, she tells them not to grab the American passports. Nirja and the attendants get to work, making sure to hide the American passports by throwing them on the floor and pushing them under the seats. In Bombay, Harish calls Rama again to tell her the government is negotiating with the terrorists. Rama's visibly upset yet tries to stay positive, expressing how sure she is that Nirja will be fine. Then, she decides to go out to buy the yellow dress to welcome her daughter back when this is over, while one of her sons stays by the phone waiting for news. Back on the plane, the terrorists are furious when they find no American passports in the bags. Khalil checks Nirja's clothes to be sure she isn't hiding them, and Zaid ends up grabbing a British passport instead. The Englishman is brought to the door as Zaid and Khalil begin arguing again to see if they'll kill him or not, especially since it's been 8 hours since this started. They open the door and the guards tell them about Ali being a radio operator in order to negotiate properly through the communicators. At first, Ali doesn't want to surrender, but the terrorists threaten with killing the Englishman, so Ali has no choice but to offer his services. Furious over having been tricked, the terrorists deliver a few blows before Zaid takes a flight attendant and Ali to the cockpit, where Ali calls the terminal. The guards try to get the women and the children released, but Zaid still refuses, thus the guard promises pilots are on their way. Meanwhile, Khalil finds Ali's jacket and gets angry at Nirja for having hidden this from them. As punishment, he tries to make her sing in front of everyone. Nirja refuses, not caring about his threats because she knows they need her. Khalil realizes this and points his gun at a kid instead, so Nirja does as he says and sings in tears while Rama at home looks at pictures of her daughter as a child and wraps up the yellow dress. Some hours later, Nirja tries to help a kid go to the toilet, but Khalil immediately jumps in to make them go back to their seats. Mansoor comes in their defense, saying it's just a child and that Khalil needs to control his anger, but this only makes Khalil hit him. Zaid has to come and push him back, putting Khalil in his place while the kid wets his pants. Since time continues to pass without answers, the mood is getting worse. Khalil throws a tantrum while Zaid asks a flight attendant to help him with his clothes so he can take out the explosives he had hidden and take them to the cockpit with Ali. Zaid's argument with the terminal guard starts going in circles, causing Khalil to get tired of it and shoot Ali before telling the guards he'll kill more people if the pilots don't get here soon. Afterward, Khalil tells everyone he's killed Ali to keep them scared. Nirja tries to comfort the kids while they listen, causing her to remember the day she and Naresh had lunch with her family. Rama was trying to tell Nirja about the things she had to learn to become a better wife because she didn't want her to give up on her marriage this quickly, which was the last straw. Nirja retrieved a file where Harish had been saving all of Naresh's letters asking him not to call Nirja so often, complaining about the small dowry and how useless Nirja was at cleaning the house. Crying, Nirja explained she'd tried her best and finally admitted that her bruises weren't from falling but from Naresh's abuse. She also apologized for not being brave, but Rama, who didn't know about any of this, comes into her defense at last. Back in the present, Nirja asks Khalil permission to give everyone some snacks, and Khalil allows her and the other attendants to do their jobs to keep everyone quiet. As she walks among the seats, Nirja slips an instruction manual to one of the passengers so he knows how to activate the evacuation slide when the time comes. Meanwhile, the Pakistani authorities are talking to the press, although they don't give all the details about the terrorist demands. The military has finally arrived at the airport and begins working on a plan while Zaid finally gives up on trying to use the radio, so he returns to the group with the attendant, leaving the bomb in the cockpit. Starting to worry about her future, Nirja decides to open Jadip's gift. She finds a letter where he expresses his understanding of her fears but also begs her to remember to move on and accept to marry him. Nirja cries her heart out as she eats the cookie that came with the letter as a sign of acceptance. At the same time, Jadip is looking at the billboard while listening to the radio for news about the plane. After over 15 hours pass, the terrorists open one of the windows and notice the military in the area. At that moment, the plane loses auxiliary power and the lights go out. The terrorists panic, not listening to Nirja when she tries to explain this is the battery and thinking this was caused by the military, meaning they're about to enter the plane. Without anything to lose now, the terrorists begin shooting down passengers indiscriminately, so Nirja takes advantage of the chaos to open a door and release the evacuation slide, and the passenger with the manual does the same on the opposite side. However, Nirja doesn't immediately jump, instead she stays behind to guide as many people as possible to safety. The terrorists start fighting among themselves because they've hurt each other with their own bullets, but soon they pour all their fury into killing more passengers, and Khalil even begins making grenades explode while Zaid searches for the bomb in the cockpit. After a few minutes, there are only 3 kids left, so Nirja goes to pick them up, only to be seen by Khalil. When he turns his gun on them, Nirja uses her body as a shield between the bullets and the children, getting shot 3 times before they finally manage to push through and slide out of the plane. As the military finally comes closer, Nirja is put in an ambulance, where she gives one of the kids a message before passing out. In Bombay, information isn't arriving properly anymore, so Rama and Harish don't know anything about the state of their daughter. It isn't until Nirja's birthday a few days later that passengers and flight attendants come home to reunite with their family, but unfortunately, Rama and Harish receive bad news: Nirja's died. Crying, Rama covers her daughter's body with the yellow dress, and the kid comes closer to give her Nirja's message, which is a reminder that she hates tears. This inspires Nirja's co-workers to say goodbye with a salute instead of crying, and soon everyone in the room follows their example. Sometime later, Nirja's rewarded with the highest honor for bravery, the Ashoka Chakra, given by the president himself and received by Rama in Nirja's name. Of the 379 passengers and crew, 359 have survived. The 4 terrorists are given life imprisonment, and Nirja receives other accolades from the governments of Pakistan and the United States. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.